Hello, everybody. This is Casey Let Gordon of the Fuck It All podcast. And I'm not only excited for today's guest in today's conversation, I'm very honored. We were introduced to Khrystyna Didukh from the Ukraine, calling us now. I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, you're now
I'm in Tallinn, in Estonia.
in Estonia. That's what I was thinking, getting ready for a conference. More on that shortly in the next coming week. Khrystyna was introduced to us. If for those that have been listening for a while, Kate Ryan Brewer was a guest on our Fuck It All podcast last year and talk about just an incredible artist and storyteller and activist. And at the time, she was living in the Ukraine, that the war broke out in 2022. And she has just continued to connect us to so many amazing people. And it's one thing to talk about modern womanhood in the West and living in the US in this moment in time. And it's another to talk about modern womanhood amidst a war. And today's conversation will be going through Khrystyna's own story. She was is an incredibly successful entrepreneur, the largest, correct me if I'm wrong, flower importer into.
Fourth largest, not the largest, fourth
Okay. All right. That's an asterisk, fourth largest, top 5. And so into the Ukraine. And when this war happened, not only did it shake your very existence, your business, but it also awoken you to the power of female entrepreneurship and what happens when we take control of these stories, when we take control of our lives. And a couple of the things we'll talk about is one, building differently, channeling your feminine energy in two very masculine systems, one being entrepreneurship and two being war. So that's one to talk about. Two, the idea of being too much and how everybody loves to say that. And this idea that are we intimidating or are others intimidated? And I think that distinction is really important because especially as we go to create something new, whether it's in the business world or otherwise, sometimes you need to be a lot in order to get stuff done because this is a really big undertaking and it's never too much. It's just enough. And then finally, we'll be talking about your Brave to Bloom conference, which is an international women's conference on next Monday. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's the start of April. Is that right?
Yes, third and fourth of April, and it's online worldwide. So basically, if everyone listening to this podcast will join, it will be a huge success, and it will be something they have never seen before.
I
For
want to hear more on that. So it's something, this is an international women's conference. It does center on entrepreneurship, but it's so much more than that. You have compiled an incredible list of speakers, of thought leaders, and participants.
30 speakers. Just imagine that. We have 30 speakers, among them millionaires, among them Forbes 30 under 30 people featured, among them people who have 10,000 employees. Girl who has 10,000 employees. Just imagine that. And this is from business perspective because this conference has more dimensions than business perspective only. It has mental health dimension. It has self-care dimension. It has art dimension because we have grabbed we have invited famous artists and floral designers to perform at the stage and show the power of art because power can be different. Everything you can do 1,000 different ways, and I cannot understand why to limit yourself uh, when you can do whatever and be successful in it.
Yeah, this idea of art having a place in feminine entrepreneurship. I won't even say female, because we really call ourselves a feminine energy company. This idea of, there's power. We've talked about it a lot. There's power in feminine elements like water. Water for us created the Grand Canyon, right? It moves mountains, it creates continents, but it's not the same force that brute force would have. And this is an interesting conversation because we will talk through, especially at this moment in time in Ukraine, of war, which is an incredibly masculine energy that came and completely disrupted life for not only you, but I know for so many families, women, business owners, for everyone. And so let's start with, can we start with your story? Because I think it has so much fuck it all in it that let's start there.
It's like motto of today's day, like fuck it story. So let's start. Where to start? Let's start from the first day of war, because the day before the war, I went for a 2 days business trip. I'm still on it.
I have to laugh so I don't cry.
Yeah. So on the first day of war, I did my amazing job. My job before the war was to select different types of flowers and new varieties and bring them back to Ukraine. Sometimes we brought first time some varieties into Ukraine.
So first generation florals.
Yes, true to them. We served B2B, we served probably 20% of Ukrainian market of flower stores and like high level florists. And I loved it. I really loved searching for the new varieties of flowers worldwide, bring them first to Ukraine to develop the business, develop everything that was connected to it. We built the first flower competence center in Ukraine, the first one.
Amazing.
And then,
Okay, well, first of all, I have to ask, where did you get your entrepreneurial like strike?
well, actually, probably from my mom, because
Mhm.
she has floral shop. So basically,
I-
since 6 years age, I was working with flowers, and
Okay.
it's very known background for me. Uh, Probably, I made a pause. I made a pause for 3 years in PricewaterhouseCoopers. Then I understood that flowers is my thing.
I
It's
love it.
totally my thing. And I can do it better than everyone who did it before. And so we built our company, we built it differently than three others were there for 30 years. And then we started.
Yes, snaps.
So on the second day of war, first day of war, second day of my business trip, I did an amazing job. I purchased a truck full of flowers. I checked the quality. The quality was perfect. And that's where the trouble began. Because basically, on the first day of war, just at our border, at Polish Ukrainian border, all the trucks stopped. Nobody needed flowers anymore. And all my money were in that flowers. But where were other money? Basically, we had one more truck coming from Holland and it came to our wholesaler store just in the night of 24th. And our wholesale store is 800 meters from the tank factory to be blown up first.
Yep.
So on 23rd, I did amazing job. I was Everything was well. On 24th, I woke up owing 140,000 euros to Holland for the flowers that already came to Ukraine. And all my assets could be described as a truck full of tulips.
So the favorite thing that I've come to know about Khrystyna in the conversations we have, your infectious laugh at times that I'm like, I would have been crying, and you're over here like, this is fucking funny. Like,
It's fucking
let's talk
funny.
about the irony of this.
Yes, true. Well, I took a blank sheet of paper and I tried to focus, which was really hard because in our Telegram channels, like every 20 seconds, there was explosion there, explosion there, explosion there. We never experienced it before. It's now like, okay, air raid alarm. Good. Tell me if you are alive after it.
The fact that that's become normalized in itself, I mean, I just have deep respect and admiration and grief for you all. Like, that's I hate that that's a reality.
But that's how human psychology works. Like you
It
cannot
is.
constantly depressed and afraid and not and still be with
Yeah.
your mind for a year. Uh, at some point, your psychological state becomes more close to what you are in normal life.
Yeah.
It just works like this. That's why, yes, right now air raid alarms are normal. Wonderful. Right now, all the things that sound terrible and actually are terrible
Yeah.
became new normal. Uh,
But this is, I mean, this is the power of the way story tracks to the systems in our lives, right? Is that like this is becoming a norm for you that then impacts the way we behave, that impacts our actions, that impacts our systems. And so, whether we're talking about the system of war and what's happening right now, or we're talking about the patriarchy or any other system that historically has been oppressive of women or feminine energy, all of these become conditioned in the environments because we can't live in a state of fight or flight. So our psychology then, or minds and body take over to say, okay, adapt. Doesn't mean that it's healthy or good or well, but it's the only way we move forward.
Mhm. True. We can probably switch between the energies. And that's the thing we can do better than man can. Because
Mm,
they can do only like that straightforward aggression
yeah.
and like low vibration things. We can be different. Today, we can use our feminine energy and be like water. Tomorrow, we can use our fire energy and actually fuck it all, break it all, explode it all, and do something new and different.
Yeah.
One more day after, we can use the earth energy and start meditate, start working with plants, start working with something close to ground, and that's how find our peace. And another day we can be like wind. We
Hmm.
can unwind. We can do what male part cannot do.
Yeah.
And basically, that's our power, being so changeable, being
Mm.
able to do so many things.
And I love that. That's adaptability and entrepreneurship too, right? And that's something that, I think that innately, and I don't, this is also speaking in generalities. There's an asterisk here of there, we are all individuals and we all have our own experiences, but many times women are so adaptable. We have to move in the spaces of the roles we occupy in our homes, in our communities, in our jobs, and our families. And so when we have that, I mean, my experience, I'm almost 3 years in on entrepreneurship now, that is the number one trait that keeps you going another day is the ability to adapt.
Mhm. Well, both actually, because sometimes when probably when you talked about adaptability, it was like I do not want to adapt all the time. I want to change the world according to what I believe is right. And those are like two basic power of human
Yep.
to be adaptable when we need to be adaptable, but to be really powerful. And sometimes they can call us pushy, they can call us whatever. Be calmer, be silent, be like adapt better. Why don't you adapt better? Because we want to change.
All right. So day two, you have a truck full of tulips. You have a ton of money due over in Holland. All of your assets are in question or vulnerable. What do you do next? Because I love that you said it's this power to say like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. So I want to know, how did you then begin to navigate from then to where we are today?
Easy. You can take a blank sheet of paper and list all the assets you have right now.
Okay.
Usually we are focused on what we don't have. And
Mm,
this list is endless and it pushes us down and down and down and down. There is really a technique to tell what you have. And what I had an Estonian company, Estonian registered company. I had a truck full of tulips, and I was more or less safe. This was a good starting point, much better than of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I connected one to other. If I have Estonian company and I have truck of tulips, probably I will go with truck of tulips to Estonia. And then the first obstacle appeared. All banks' accounts were blocked because all our banks fell on the first days of war. So I was like, okay, and no money. Love it. I went to the airport. It was not far, but I went on foot to the airport. I found some hryvnias in my pocket, and I came to like currency exchange. And like, please, I need to buy a plane ticket. I need to exchange some money. And they're like, we do not accept hryvnias. And that was the first time I looked at the money in my hand and realized that actually I look at the paper in my hands. Basically, the force exchanged the money on the crazy currency rate, but I was able to buy plane ticket to Estonia, and that was the next step. The next thing I would really recommend to everyone not to think in terms of long-term strategy when everything is falling to pieces
Yeah.
and some shit is happening. Do not try, because we used to do so. We used to think like in long-term strategy,
Yeah.
but in that state of mind it's better to think one step forward or two
Yeah.
steps forward.
Yeah.
So I came to Estonia. Flowers I arranged with a grower. That first part of flowers will come after me. Flowers came after me. I arranged a small warehouse where to store them and sold first two packages of flowers just to the flower store nearby. That's how I got a room in hotel for a first night.
Okay, I need to know what your mindset was because, like, you could laugh now and find like at the time, were you hopeful? Were you like, I'm fucked? Like, where were you mentally at during this time?
I was acting. I was actually pure action, one action after another. Because between that, I have 20 people working in Ukraine.
Oh my
Between that,
god.
we had two staff meetings, where one of the crucial things we had to discuss is who takes the cat from the office.
That's actually a very, very legitimate point.
Really, because we were really afraid that some bombings are coming and
Yeah,
maybe she will not return. And the very legitimate point and very like crucial point was who takes the cat from the office.
is the
So
cat okay?
yes, now she's not in the office. She now
That's okay.
lives at home. So she's not more office cat. She's now home cat,
That's
promoted. So
yes.
actually, she got promotion because of war.
The war was great for her. Okay, okay. So you are going action mode. You're just getting through this. You're meeting with your team, getting them, situated the best you can, and you're living really moment to moment to be able to say, how can I even fund a hotel tonight?
Yes, yes. It was. Uh, it even wasn't scary. It
Mm,
was just I have to act.
yeah.
And I lived in this mode like first months of war, because after that, after what happened to the I found a hotel. I took one more blank sheet of paper. I understood that, okay, what can I do now? I have computer, I have phone, I have tulips. I started to write to all Facebook groups everywhere, like, boys and girls, who needs tulips?
Yep.
And actually, my story became viral in Estonia, and everyone wanted to buy those tulips, and that was really good. But I didn't count. The best I could deliver in a day was 500 to 700 tulips. That was like maximum. But I had more than 200,000 of them. I would deliver till the end of my life, till now probably. But they will live anyway for 2 weeks or 3 weeks is the maximum life. So I had to think of something different. I
Yeah.
started to arrange the meetings with the design stores. And when I say arrange the meetings, I mean I come to the design store and say, with whom can I talk?
Wow.
And basically, at one point, we had 14 places selling our tulips. And that was also a bad strategy. You know why? Because the tulips need special temperature.
Hmm.
Otherwise, in very hot places like restaurant or like design store where we
Mhm.
sold them, they will be like 2 days okay. On the
Yeah.
third day, they will be much less okay. So I started circulating between the stores. After that, I understood that 14 is too much because people want to buy these tulips. They can go 1 mile more.
Right.
We made like 3 stores. That was also not the winning strategy. You know why? Because Thailand has finished. Thailand is a small city. There are 600,000 of people. And
Yeah.
basically, the tulips were perfect. They had a vase life of 4 weeks. So everyone who bought my tulips will not need them for 4 weeks more. What to
Yeah.
do? Then I went to Riga with the same strategy, and I finished in Vienna with the same
So
strategy.
you literally are the woman in the tulip truck driving across Estonia, city to city,
Uh,
just maximizing your sales.
not driving the tulips track because I divided it into parts and the
Okay.
flowers
Okay.
ended like by part.
Okay.
But yes, I was doing everything for these flowers not to die.
I talk about constraints on a system, right? Like talk about the fact of we think a lot of times about like runway and funding. I this brings us to this Brave to Bloom conference that you're putting together. You have learned so much over the past year
True.
of constraints of creative thinking, of execution, of pivoting, of adaptation that would be true in any environment, obviously amplified incredibly by being displaced out of your home through a war, changing your business model. And I would love to hear, from that point into the conference, how did this come to be? How did you take, and something I was just talking actually to my mom about last week on we were on vacation and she and I were having coffee and it said, we were listening to something and it said, when you can take your pain and your own negative experiences and turn it as wisdom to share with someone else. That's really a point of enlightenment. And that's really a point of like ultimate kind of human growth. And that she looked at me and she goes, that's what you did. Like were struggling and you took that moment. And preparing for this conversation today, I couldn't help but think of the same thing is you've experienced one of the tragedies of human life, of humankind, of war and loss and relocation. And I'm sure many other things that terrible things that war brings. And yet you've taken this experience and turned it into something that is helping women internationally. Like I think I just look at you with a lot of reverence and a lot of admiration to not make your experiences in vain.
Wow. First of all, thank you. Secondly, I never thought about it like this. Uh, Usually, I think not about the things happening to me, but what are my actions that can do better and
Mm,
change for better? Because why this conference appeared? Actually, very easy. I started my startup and I visited like 15 countries in half a year because of my startup. And everywhere I found women, I talked to women and realized that they are not actually realizing their true potential. And the obstacles to that are push them and they fall. Sometimes it's like non-supportive environment. It's like very often thing. Sometimes is some negative patterns learned in the childhood. Sometimes it's lack of information because
Totally.
you can start company like in 15 minutes. You can get grants and investments quite easily. You can so many things. The truth is that you can do everything. You just have to choose which part of that everything you would like to do. Because right now you are recording this podcast because you want, I assume, because you want to do this,
Yeah.
because this media company is something you love, and that's the reason you bring it to life. Every girl, every woman can find such thing which turns her on, which brings her joy and actually enlightenment in life. Once I heard one phrase like, do you know what? In 50 years, probably you and me will be dead. 50 years only. So why don't we do the things we believe in?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and I think it's a practice, and one of the biggest parts of our practice at it all is the people we surround ourselves with, because those voices become affirmations of whether you can or cannot, and certainly the voice inside is most important, but the noise outside gets loud too, and so I I think that to surround yourself with people that say, "Hey, we have 50 years and what are we doing with that?" or whatever our time is, and truthfully, any of us, it could be tomorrow, right? Is and it's just a different perspective, and we find that women that are usually in our community, call it 28 to 35, maybe 42, really have these reckoning moments where there's some sort, they've lived enough life where they have some perspective, maybe they've achieved something traditional and that they were left still wanting more. But if they are under 25 and they have a fuck it all mindset, it was usually a trauma, a loss, or a major event like a war, like an illness, something that shifted their perspective. COVID was obviously a giant amplifier for that, to say, life is short. This is your time. What will you do? And it's sucks that we have to wait for those very catastrophic big moments. But how do we then, for those of us that are having those, just like I was saying, go out and almost spread that message and say, you can do this too. So you were connected again through, when I say just incredible storyteller, artist, activist, Kate. And we'll be sure to put her episode in the show notes because she's just a great voice to, I think, have as a part of, anybody's practice listening to Fuck It All. When she said, you need to meet Khrystyna because she's doing something, she's turning this really tragic experience or this really awful circumstance into something incredible. And you're building a new business because of this. Like, this isn't the business that you had for several years
Yes.
back in Ukraine. And I'm sure there's a grieving period of that too, grieving the life, grieving the company, grieving what that looked like. But who knows what this is, and maybe even a bigger impact than you ever had before.
Well, for this project to bloom, we actually, right now, we need so many voices. We need so many voices telling about it in different parts of the world. Because people can join online. I mean, people can join from everywhere. But that's what's important for me, the scale, the number of people whose life we had a little chance to bring something into their life, because we have built the mechanics of the conference like that people have a lot of chances to speak, a lot of chances to tell about themselves, a lot of chances to pitch their idea and get the investment, chances to network among the people who probably lived through the same moments and can save years and years of experience. Actually, if you can buy experience, buy it.
Oh my god, if you can buy experience, buy it. I'm putting that in the show notes right now. That is fucking brilliant. It's true though, and so often I think as women, especially when we go into spaces that historically we haven't been invited into, celebrated, welcomed, we feel like we have to prove ourselves. We feel like we maybe have to do it all. We feel like we have to, kind of do the hard things, pay our dues, but I call bullshit. And our coach, we have a manifestation coach, Jen Mazer, her episode is also up. And she always says, how do I make this more fun and more joyful, or easier and more joyful? And the question of easy, a lot of times, especially in hustle culture, if it's not hard, you're not doing it. Bullshit. If it can be easy and you can make money or you can buy experience, I love that, because we are doing so much. Our lives are big. Let's not spend energy that doesn't need to be spent wisely, effectively. You know, I anybody listening, anybody that has a business idea, wants to create something, joining on the Brave to Bloom conference, I would just say, ask yourself, how do I make this easier and more joyful? And that, if you look at the spaces that women historically operate in, the space, the gifts that we bring to the world, often it is ease and joy that we bring into every aspect of our lives.
Actually, we bring people to the life. Without us, there are no more people.
Exactly. Exactly that. Um, Khrystyna, thank you so much for joining the Fuck It All podcast. Thank you so much for inviting us to be one of those voices. I have no doubt this is going to be the start of a very long partnership. I hope that we have plenty of chances to help women brave to bloom. I love that, and I love the contradiction there, or the tension of those two words, brave and bloom, because one can't exist without the other, but you often don't think of them together. Think about how brave it is for a flower to bloom, like all the things they have to live through in order to just sprout. And I love that, whether it's an idea or ourselves, that's what we're all doing here in this world.
And actually, I have a dream.
Tell me.
Uh, okay, after the conference, 1 week after, there is the biggest conference in the world, startup conference, and it's in Silicon Valley. So I have a dream to go to US, first time in my life,
Okay.
to go to this Silicon Valley conference and to make to do like a new start there, to show that every whichever horrible experience can turn into something different. Like my psychotherapist tells always, like I'm 5 years in psychotherapy, and by the way, it's one of the life hacks. Why it's really saved my mental health. She said that it's not that important what other people have done to us. It's so much more important what we do with it.
Mm.
And
Say it one more time. It's not as important what others do to us. It's more important what we do with it.
what we will do with it. Yes.
All right. So I'm putting a call out to our listeners. We have a lot of people in California. I got a lot of startup friends. Khrystyna, I want you at that Silicon Valley conference. So in the show notes, whatever that call to action is, you tell us what needs to be true. Is it a place to stay? Is it financing to get here? You email me, you tell me what it is. That will be within our
And brave to bloom. That's the only thing I am now working on. The people joining, the people believing in our idea, and the people being with us in that experience and blooming together. Because I believe that it's the first time we are doing this, and we have broken so many walls to do it first time. And the next time it will be something different, totally, because I mean that life is changing and this project is very much alive. It's
Yeah.
something that I see how people meet, and we can respond to that, and maybe in a year it will be something different. We
I can't
will.
wait. This is the start of it. And I have no doubt, like, my hope is that in 5 years from now and 3 years from now, we're all sitting together in a room and we're talking about all the growth that you all have had, all the, the collaboration that we've created together. And this global call of not just women, of people everywhere, but certainly women to say, be brave enough to bloom and do that together. There's no greater legacy on this earth.
Thanks. True. Actually, we can do it in 2 weeks, I guess. In 2 weeks.
I can't wait. I can't wait. All right, everyone. This is the Fuck It All podcast. This episode is going to go live before the Brave to Bloom conference, which is April 3rd and 4th. You can register. We will put links in the bio and the show notes. Please consider joining this, sharing it with someone in your life that not only maybe is considering an idea, maybe they have a business, or just saying, like, hey, I'm here to learn and self help. Like, yes to all of that. We will be speaking. We are so grateful. We'll share more on that. And this is the first of many conversations with Khrystyna. Thank you so much for being on the Fuck It All podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today. And I hope to hug you soon.
I can't wait.